Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Impaired and Distracted Driving Committee for May 5th. We're going to start with some elections. Are there any nominations for chair? If you want to nominate somebody, please raise your hand, state who you want to nominate, and your seconder. It will just be for this meeting. We can do another election next time if you're not comfortable chairing for a whole year. Are you nominating somebody?
I would like to.
Yes.
Could I nominate my friend to my right here? Just for this meeting.
Okay, do you accept the nomination? Sure. Okay. Are there any nominations for vice chair? Same process. If you want to nominate somebody, just raise your hand. Let me know who you want to nominate. Again, it can just be for this meeting.
Can I nominate Norm?
Sure, Norm, do you accept the nomination?
Yes, I do.
Excellent. Are there any other nominations? Okay. Do you want the color one, or you're okay with that one?
Yep, this is fine.
Okay, go ahead.
So welcome. This meeting is now called to order. The roll has been taken. As this meeting will be held in a hybrid format, please note the following. All members participating virtually should have their microphones off when not speaking meeting to reduce feedback. All web cameras for committee members participating virtually shall be turned on. Any member of the committee should indicate they wish to speak by physically raising their hand. Members present in person will be given opportunity to speak first, followed by virtual participants. All members of the committee will vote by a physical show of hands. The chair will indicate to leave your hands raised until they have determined the result of the vote. In the event of a connection or service interruption occurs that affects quorum of the committee, we may recess the meeting for up to 15 minutes to regain quorum. If quorum is not achieved, the meeting will be adjourned. The full corporate policy 50 regarding electronic virtual participation in meetings is available online to review. Are there any declarations of conflicts of interest for any of the items listed on the agenda? There are no presentations or delegations for today's meeting. Items for consideration, media campaign summary. May I please have a mover and a seconder on the motion? Jan has
And I'll second it.
and Norm. That the 2021 media campaign summary be received. Any discussions or comments?
We also have staff here if you
Yeah,
don't
maybe
answer.
we should hear a little more about it.
For sure. Maria, if you wanted to.
Thank you. Good afternoon, members of the committee. It's very nice to see everybody together in this hybrid world, but very, very glad to see the committee coming together again. I'm Maria Visaki. I'm the city's Director of Communications, Community Engagement, and Customer Service. Through the chair, I'm happy to provide just a quick summary of the marketing practices and the marketing plan that we executed last year. So the committee will remember that last year at this time, we had an available budget of $5,380. And the city's communications department was asked to provide a recommendation in terms of how we could invest those dollars and maximize reach in targeting members of our community. Our key messages with respect to this campaign were obviously to mitigate instances of impaired or distracted driving. $5,000, while not a huge sum, can actually go quite a long way in our community. We use the money to execute an integrated campaign that involved both online and print ads in the Brantford Expositor. We also used about $1,000 of that budget to boost all of the postings that we implemented across the city's social media channels. And again, what boosting social media does is it extends our reach. So for example, the city's Facebook page has a following of 21,000 people. If we boost postings on there, we have the capacity to reach double that audience and still target it within our community, in our region. So those are very effective ways of using those dollars. Because we had a little bit more to work with, we also executed a number of outdoor digital billboards in the city. Those are the electronic billboards on West Street and Brant Ave. So there were 4 locations. And the other elements of the media plan included digital screen advertising across all of the city's housing developments and city facilities. Those would be absolutely at no cost because those mediums are city owned. We also did a dedicated page on the city's website, and we did a number of public notices over the 8-week campaign that were targeted to coincide with the social media, and we timed them around long weekends to make sure that people were very mindful ahead of celebrating occasions of that nature in the summer that may or may not involve substance use, that they be very mindful to always have a designated driver. So we had a couple of executions. We had a number of them where there was imagery of people after an accident with the hashtag Arrive Alive. And then there was also imagery of people in a car looking at their phone, obviously distracted, with text saying to focus on the driving, and the hashtag was Just Drive. So we have that campaign. It's already done. It's already created, and I would argue that all of the messaging is still relevant. What we don't know going into this season is if we have any incremental budget to work with from the committee to actually do any of the paid advertising again. So happy to take any questions about details about what the costs of investing in paid media would be. Through the chair, I see Councillor Vanderstel.
Yeah, I know it's my second time in this room and everything's weird. So thank you, Maria. Thank you for that presentation, and thank you for the history on this. It's good to know that we are front facing and we are on multiple fronts getting that message out there. It's obviously important as the numbers keep rising, and I'm very glad that we've done that. Now, you said you were just over, last year's budget was just over 5,000. What was that again?
Yeah, it was 5,380, which
Okay.
I think was the balance in this committee's budget last year at this time.
And that was funded from where again, Maria?
That's a good question. Is there
It's
anybody?
depleted though, right? There's nothing left, right?
Just based on experience. Oh, there is someone from finance here. I was going to guess council reserves, but I would need a colleague from finance to confirm that.
So who is that on finance? Can you see it on your end?
Yeah, I can see another Brantford panelist.
Not sure.
Who that is?
I'm not sure if they're from finance, Maria.
Okay.
If they-
Okay, Maria, do you know how much is left in that budget now?
It's my understanding that there isn't any. Oh yes. I think when we were communicating with Joelle, there's about $1,000 left in the fund.
Okay, so through the chair, I've taken the initiative of working with members of council to annualize a budget for the city's portion. So through Joelle, I think I've asked for 7,500 for the year for every year and annualize that into our budget line for this particular purpose. Because I knew that it was, 5,000 was a little shy, as you alluded to, for everything that we wanted to encapsulate, right? I had not taken the additional steps to find out what other contributions we could see from other sources, but I just wanted to make sure that the city's portion was not only increased, but reliable year over year for this committee. Thanks, Madam Chair.
So that's the end of our discussion for that, right? We just move on to, oh, sorry, somebody has their hand up. Councillor Miller?
Thank you. Just a couple add-ons and a question for Maria. I will say, I think Maria stretched those media dollars about as far as anybody I've ever seen stretch them. So kudos to you, Maria, and your department, because that's fantastic. My question to you through the chair is, I guess when you're doing social media, you can kind of gauge, what the reaction is through, people, there's feedback and stuff, but is there any real way to know how effective the whole $5,380 was? I mean, I still open up the paper, I still read, and I don't expect one media campaign to do it all, but you know what I mean? The impaired driving still out there, the distracted driving's out there. We just lost a young girl from Six Nations due to impaired driving. Is there any way to objectively know how effective a campaign like this is?
Through the chair, that's a very good question, Councillor Miller. And before I answer it, I just want to make reference to the fact that we did actually coordinate all of the media plan with Melissa and her team at the county. So the website content on the county site is the same. So it was a coordinated effort, and we tagged each other in all of our postings. And by doing that, you even stretch the reach farther because you're using other channels and people are seeing the message more frequently, which helps them to actually retain the messaging. So it's always good to be able to work with our neighboring partners. So in terms of your question, it's very difficult to link people seeing messaging with their actual behavior. So what I could tell you scientifically through a post-analysis of our media reach is that this many thousand people saw the message once. This many thousand people saw the message 3 times. This many, vehicular traffic impressions were associated with the outdoor media. This many print impressions, this many digital impressions, this many people went to the website. So I could impress you with lots of those numbers. I can't say that people actually acted on it without doing more, taking a deeper dive and doing research where we actually had focus groups and spoke to people and asked them that question. Was your behavior impacted by messaging that you saw about this really important issue? I can tell you that we get a very robust response when we do this kind of messaging, and we get a lot of shares, especially from people in the community who are civic minded, and some of our, we call them frequent flyers, who always share some of our more public service alert messaging. And a lot of mothers. We see a lot of mothers and families and parents sharing this kind of messaging because, of course, they're very mindful of it, having children who may just have started driving and things like that. So we always do get a good response, but to really be able to say, did the messaging actually alter your behavior? That would require a deeper dive into the research.
Okay. I appreciate that, Maria. And you don't have to throw some numbers at me to impress me. I know you do a good job. My wife tells me you did a great job because whenever you were involved, it was always a stressful situation for her. So I know the good work you do. So I appreciate the answer. Madam Chair, I just want to piggyback on what Jay said earlier about maybe looking at, say, a year-over-year continuous budget from the city. And I think at the county, we should do the same thing. So why don't you leave it up to us, to Jan and I, maybe to sit down and, because we cost share on a lot of things. Usually it's a formula based on population or whatnot. So I think we should have like I say, a fixed budget year over year, whether it's 10,000 or whatnot. And then, because I don't think we do this advertising campaign every year, do we?
Through the chair. So this would be our 4th consecutive year, but the first 2 years we only did in-house. We only did social media. We did a media release. We did web content. Last year was the first time we actually invested in paid media.
Okay, well, maybe it's something that, like I say, if we had an annual budget that we could always count on, then maybe we could just make that, just a standing tradition kind of deal, unless something else happens. But leave that, if that's okay with you, Councillor Vanderstel. I don't want to speak for you, but I think we could work something.
Wow. Where did I go? I don't know where I am. I don't know. Can you see me, Madam Chair?
Start. Yes,
Yes.
I see him.
Thank you.
I don't know if anybody else does.
Thanks, Madam Chair. In follow-up to Councilor Miller, yeah, absolutely. I would be more than willing to consider a joint notice of motion or whatever it is, so that both councils understand our intentions behind the annualized budget here, just to make sure that the good work continues. Yes, thank you. I'll contact you on that. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. So any further discussions or comments? No. And so we have to do all those. Just call the vote. Yeah. Okay. All those in favor? And those opposed? Carried. It's carried. Okay, so we'll now move on to the budget update.
So ask for mover and seconder again.
May I please have a mover and a seconder for the motion, please? Mover
And I'll second it.
and normal second it. That the budget update for April 2022 be received. Is there any discussions or comments?
I can provide a little bit of information from staff if you guys would like
That would
that.
be wonderful.
So the budget is attached. This is not the FADE account, which again, that was used for the communications plan. This is our regular budget. So it still has all of the things it used to pre-COVID minus the meal budget. So I just wanted to point that out. Again, all of our city committees as of right now, they don't have meal budgets. Same thing with council. Council also lost their meal budget. So that's just the one thing. So I wanted to flag, but other than that, there is still a registration fee allocation here. If for anyone that was interested, Laura used to attend the, I believe it was the Arrive Alive conference.
I remember that, yes.
So we're just waiting to see if there's something posted online about when it's occurring. But when we do find that information, we can send that out to committee members. If there's anyone that would like to participate, we do, I believe, still have the funding for one person. Again, I don't know if they're going to be doing in-person, virtual, what their format is. So we'll keep you up to date on that. But in terms of the budget, it is very much what it has always been. But I can try and answer, again, I'm not from finance, but I can try and answer any questions about what the budget here, if anyone has any questions.
Is there any questions in regards to the budget? Oh, Councillor Miller?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just one question. When I look at County of Brandon under revenues, I see a bracket $1,156. Does that mean that money is to come, or what does the brackets mean?
Again, from my understanding, that is the portion that is provided by the county grant for this committee. So in that it's used for things for this committee. Again, still for the registration fees, there is the staff, the full-time earnings and the employee benefits just is city staff time. That's what that's allocated to. But from my understanding, that's the county's portion of the committee budget, as it is right now.
Okay, we're getting close. Do we know why it's in brackets? That's my question.
That's a great question. I don't know. I can reach out to finance and ask them for clarification regarding the county's portion and why it is appearing this way. But again, I will definitely, I can can follow up with finance after that.
If you don't mind, maybe just fire me a quick email, just because if I need to do, if you need something from my end, let me know. But yeah, just fire me off an email, and I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
For sure, thank you.
Okay, is there any other further discussion or comments? All those in favor? And those opposed? It's carried. So we will now move on to consent items. The Brantford and Six Nations Impaired and Distracted Driving Committee, May 13th, 2022. May I please have a mover and a seconder to approve the minutes?
I'll move.
Warren? And Gaynor will second it. That the minutes of the May 13th, 2021 meeting of the Brantford and Six Nations Impaired and Distracted Driving Committee be approved. Are there any errors or omissions? All those in favor? And those opposed? So it's carried. And updates. Are there any representatives present to provide updates on the following? So LCBO report. So I can report on that. I mean, we're getting through COVID, but we really haven't changed, obviously, our policies that we have in place in terms of challenging, underage or those that are impaired, whether it's by alcohol or drugs that come into the LCBO. So we do have new employees, once again, starting for the summer. They all have to go through very stringent training courses in order to, before they start in the store. So that continues, as well as any employees that are there. We do refreshers every year in terms of challenging and refusing any customers that come into the store, whether it's based on being underage, second party purchase, or being impaired by alcohol or drugs. So we continue to try and do our part. If we see somebody come in that's impaired, we definitely refuse the service, and then we try to watch to see if they're getting into a vehicle, and if they are, we call the police immediately and provide that information to the police. So there is no one here from Brantford Police or OPP.
Sorry,
Six Nations
Hunter, I
stats.
just got a quick question for you about
Yeah.
your presentation. How does that work in the stores? So your staff identify that there's a problem,
Mhm.
and then you do a wait and see for a little bit, and then you call police, or does security play a role in that assessment? Do they have they been trained? Do they have tools as well?
The security.
Yeah.
Security will, if they notice a customer that comes in that appears to be influenced, whether it's by drugs or alcohol, they'll notify one of the staff members, preferably the manager or shift leader. And then we go out, and with their, standing beside us, we will refuse service to the customer based on what we see. And we can only go from there, and then they are removed. Again, we watch, we can't leave the building for any reason, just for the safety of our employees. But we do try to see where they're heading, and if we can get a license plate and a vehicle description, then we call the police immediately. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, does it happen with all the stores, or some stores, or
It should be happening at every store.
as far as security goes, like?
Not all stores have security, just our location here at Market Street has security, but all the employees are trained again for the same purposes. So, ideally, for de-escalation purposes, you don't want to gang up on the person with, a couple of people, but we always have to let people know that we're going to be refusing service, and then they can kind of keep a watch out just to make sure that everything runs smoothly as it can when they refuse service, and then kind of move on from there. So 6.22 Brantford Police OPP and Six Nations stats and reports. I'm not sure if there's anyone here to provide any.
We don't really have anyone.
No. And anybody here from Brant County Health Unit? No.
So, a question, so where do you get your stats from Six Nations?
So we used to have a representative on the committee, it was Ashley Montour.
Oh, okay, yeah, because I remember that because I was on this when on my first term, that was in 2013,
Yes,
right? And then I think CW Martin was,
yes.
and he got sick and passed away. So then we kind of lost touch. And this was my first meeting back I got, it's now. So I'm just trying to
Yeah, we used to,
catch up and,
for sure, we used to have police representatives from Six Nations. So we had Ashley Montoya, she went on mat leave mid 2018. And then I know that there was, we tried to get another representative and then COVID happened and then the
so is
police,
that what you would like another representative from there?
we
All
would.
right, because I can,
Absolutely.
yes.
Yeah, yeah.
I sent a couple letters, if I can send them to you for you to pass on again.
yeah, if you can send them to me,
Yeah,
and then I'll send them to the two counselors that sit on the commission
for sure.
for them to bring it up.
That's awesome. Thank you.
I can do that.
Right.
For sure. Thank you.
So, oh, sorry.
I'm just wondering about that. Oh, yeah, sorry. I think Mr. Counselor Miller was ahead of me. Go ahead, Madam Chair.
It's Mr. to you.
That's right. That's right.
I'm just teasing you. I just wanted to ask the chair a question, and I appreciate the LCBO, being part of this committee. And since this committee's been around, and we know when we talk about impaired driving, we're not talking about just alcohol anymore. Cannabis has become de facto legal, and we're watching, these cannabis stores pop up here, there, these retail cannabis stores. And I know the LCBO, it's a formal, organization, and they control the sale of alcohol. And I'm just wondering, I'm not sure how it works on the cannabis side, but I'm just wondering I'm just wondering what the committee may think of maybe getting a representative from that industry to sit on this committee, because there's new problems, and I certainly don't know the numbers. Of course, it'd help if we had our somebody from the police here today, but I'm just wondering if that might not be a bad idea if we kind of, as a committee, sought to get somebody from like I say, from the cannabis side, like we do from the alcohol side, given the proliferation of all the cannabis going on these days. Just any thoughts?
I think the only difference is the cannabis stores are all privately owned, like, so they're individually owned, and I don't know, I know that there's probably some policies that they have to abide by, but I don't know how we would go about selecting, or I don't know if there's a committee for cannabis. I'm not really familiar with it, to be honest, so.
No, and neither am I. So just that's
I'm not
that's
sure
why
if
I'm
you
throwing
can
that's why I'm
approach
throwing that out there. Yeah, I know
Right.
they're privately owned.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, I guess that's the whole part about it. We talked about, your advertising and stuff, and I think addictions and everything, talking about cannabis has come to, I think, a peak, because mental health and addictions is bacon and eggs. So I think we really need to, if you want to do all this advertising, people just don't drink and do drugs. They do it because there's reasons for it. And, some can do it, recreational, but some, indulge because they got issues. Right. So I think it's more than, doing the advertising there. I think it's really, I don't know, a mental health and addictions person sitting on here. I'm not sure what it is, but it's really thinking out of the box, because we've, not to say anything, but this is the same stuff we were talking about back in 2013 when I was sitting here. So I think times have changed, and I think we need to really go even deeper than that, because people just don't do whatever. People do it because you got problems, and we've all seen the mental health right now in your guys' community, in my community. It's in the open. So, and a lot of those ones with mental health are addicted, have addictions. So that's the whole part there, is how do we, I guess I'm going to say, another spin to it and another way to look at it, because it's just thinking on the box. I just wanted to say that and really maybe get their point of view because a lot that I can think of don't want help.
Yeah,
A
that's right.
lot, well, who cares? I'm just gonna do it anyways. And, you know, so it's really, I don't know, I guess getting the feedback from frontline workers, I guess, what's going on the ground kind of thing, because it's more than this table, but it's more than what we're talking about too. I just wanted to share that. That made sense.
Actually, by Mike, not sure. I am thinking and toying with a public appeal, just based on what you're both saying, because it's obvious that people are smoking and driving or using and driving, and it's not, alcohol is not their drug of choice, right? So I totally agree that it is an impairment in their ability to do their sworn duty to make sure that they don't endanger anybody's life, right? I mean, it's a brand new drug on the market that's now legal, right? So what I wouldn't mind championing that cause and doing a public appeal and asking for someone to sit here sort of representing that body, or two
I think
people
so.
or three people or whatever. And for that matter, I was also thinking about the fact that we don't have police representation here today, or Board of Health representation. That one I have to appeal kind of quietly about, because I don't want to embarrass the saying, where are you? I don't really feel good about doing that. But the public appeal piece, perhaps Mel, perhaps if I were to try to introduce another body into this room, is that just by invitation, or do we have to ask council for permission to do something like that, or?
So through the chair, me being the bringer of the rules, we can definitely look again with working with you and with Councillor Hill Pierce and with Councillor Miller, creating a notice of motion. We would specifically need for the city of Brantford, but the other communities participating could also pass a similar notice. But basically, we would need to amend the composition of this committee via Chapter 26 to add an individual, perhaps. Again, if it is a person from the cannabis industry, it would be a public application process as any other, not necessarily our liaison members, but our citizen members would do, so they would apply. If it's an individual, perhaps regarding mental health, we could ask for a liaison representative from the Canadian Association for Mental Health. There's a number of things we could do, but we would need to amend the composition to have them formally sit at the table and vote. In that regard, but again, it's not a complicated process. It would just be the matter of amending the composition, advertising, or reaching out to the association if it's a specific liaison position we're looking for, and doing that appointments process.
So for your guys' cannabis shops up here, do you guys do the licensing, or how does it work? I don't know how it works up here.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, through the chair. I'll leave that to you guys to discuss right now, but bottom line is there's a lot of them.
They're unfortunately or fortunately they're provincially licensed, so we do not have any jurisdiction over them. The only real, from my knowledge, the only real involvement we have is if there are odor complaints under our building and bylaw department. They would investigate those things. But in terms of licensing, things like that, where they're located, the city has no.
So it's all the provinces.
It is a province, yeah.
Wow.
It is provincially licensed. So like I said, again, there's no, as Kim mentioned, it's because it is they're privately owned stores. There is not, that I'm aware of, necessarily a overarching body committee that provides guidance.
So I guess my next question is, okay, so who's their overarching body, I guess, to be able to say, this is what kind of representation we want, because you guys are the ones who can kind of dictate to who they register, I guess. Because I guess the part of it is that I'm just thinking for myself, is you want someone who is logical, I'm gonna say, is because you can get some who are gonna, go cannabis, but you need someone who's like, this is why we're doing it, the safety and stuff like that. So when you said put it out to the community, for sure, we're going to get different ones, but if they're in the community, if they're in Brantford, and I guess for me, it's like, who's their boss type thing. And I want to know if that's who they have to report to, then I want to know what accountability they have and what education that we can tell to our own community.
For sure.
Does that make sense? Because I'm just playing it in my head. So that's where I'm looking at for representation. I don't know, a letter to them so they can choose, I don't know who or how that would work, but that's what I'm thinking when you say that, because if if you guys have no say, and then Six Nations ask, okay, well, well, then we would have that. So I'm just trying to bring them to the table because they're the ones who they report to.
So through the chair, on that note, we definitely could, as a preliminary kind of investigation, we could reach out to the NCP's office, Will Buba's office, and see if they maybe have a contact or something that they would recommend that is, it's coming to us from our member of provincial parliament. So that way it's maybe not necessarily, if that's the committee's will, a member of private industry. It is, and it may be still, they might still recommend a member of private industry, but at least we're receiving that information from our member of provincial parliament. So we as staff can definitely go do that investigation and reach out to them and see what kind of feedback they have regarding
I
it.
don't know, I'm just a thought. I don't know how others feel, but I that's just my thinking. I don't know how the rest of the.
Yeah.
I-
Go ahead. Councillor Miller?
Okay, yeah, thank you. Yeah, just, I want to just build on what was already said. As far as oversight goes, yeah, it's definitely provincial. I thought it was the Alcohol and Gaming Commission that awarded the site licenses. They do have to consult the municipality, like they can't contravene certain bylaws, like we're not allowing them within certain, well, maybe that's a provincial regulation. Anyways, or we can exceed it, but we're not allowing them within certain number of meters within a school, for example. So yeah, they can't contravene that. But other than that, yeah, I mean, a lot of times we as a council aren't even told that they're setting up, right? They just check, make sure they're abiding by the rules, and away they go. But the comment made about this is the same thing we were talking about back in 2013. It really bothers me. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It's a good thing sometimes to kind of upset the apple cart a little bit. And I think that's good. And just building on what you're saying, what Jan is saying, what I said, and I'm just wondering, maybe this whole committee needs a bit of a revamp. We've just lost our long-term chair. We're coming up into an election. And I don't know if we should be looking maybe at the terms of reference, who sits on this committee. And Jan and I talked today, we've talked about maybe formalizing a budget cost sharing between the city and the county. I think there's, just thinking about all this, and I think there's a lot of work, maybe not a lot of work. I think there's some work that needs to be done for this committee. Even sitting here today, I'm not happy. We don't have police services representatives. So I'm just throwing that out there. I don't have a motion or anything, but I'm just, like I said, I'm just wondering if we should, again, look at the terms of reference, maybe revamp the committee a little bit, maybe change our focus, and yeah, just make it a more effective committee. Just like I say, just based on what you guys are saying, what we've been saying in the discussion. So I'll leave it at that.
Were you to say something?
I was gonna say, I think it is a good idea with the cannabis situation to, it is part and parcel of what's going on out there, and you're right. There are people smoking up and driving, and it's just the same as taking a drink out of a bottle. So I think that's an excellent idea to actually try and implement something like that. And you're right, you want to get someone who's on a level playing field and who's going to be reasonable and understanding about really what's going on, instead of someone saying, well, we're on the dope, eh? So, no, I think it's a marvelous idea.
So if I may, where do you recommend that we go from here? We have an idea on the floor, discussed an idea. How do we go about sending that? Is it something that the two of you would do to discuss that with MPP Will Bauma's office working behind the scenes, or
So in regards to the member from the cannabis industry, regards to the revamp of the chapter 26 terms of reference.
The representative from cannabis meeting.
Yeah, so we'll take that, we'll go and we'll send them an email and see what kind of feedback they provide for us if they know, because there may be a committee of private cannabis shop
That's-
owners that I'm not aware of.
Right.
Yeah.
So we'll definitely, but we'll at least get that from our member of provincial parliament so that it's coming from a source that we know and we can trust. Staff will go and we'll bring that to our next meeting for the information of the committee.
I think just like what Councilor Miller said, and looking at maybe the policies again and who sits here around the table. Because times have changed, times change so quickly, the drugs change so quickly, it's not like back, growing up, so to see who sits around the table, and maybe it's who should be sitting around the table now, today in 2022, you know what I mean? I'm not sure, but I agree, really looking at revamping or looking at it again, for sure.
Okay, resolutions, notices of motion. There are no resolutions. Oh,
Okay, well, sorry. Maybe I could bring a motion forward and based on our discussion. And certainly I don't have the answer or the proper wording, but I don't know, like, who do we have as staff to help us out on this committee? Because normally if it's a county thing, we refer it to staff, ask them to look at the terms of reference and bring it back. But or should we just maybe table this and put it on a meeting? Maybe we should put this as a discussion item for the next meeting. Would that be acceptable to the committee members? And we can at least give it some thought? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. In the meantime, do we need I still think we should go forward with the cannabis representative. Do we need a motion for that? Ask the clerk or?
Through the chair, I would actually just, because we'd like to staff reach out to them first, just to figure out what they're going to tell us. If you'd like to pass a motion to provide staff direction to reach out to them, you could certainly do that. If that's something the committee is interested in, we could do that. But we will definitely do that regardless of the motion or not, and then provide that information.
Well, why don't I make that a motion, and then at least it can be part of the record then. So I'll make that a motion, looking for a seconder, that we reach out to the cannabis industry, whether it's through the MPP or directly, so that maybe we get a representative on this committee.
Gainer seconded.
On favor?
Just call vote.
Oh,
Or
all
any
in-
discussion?
Any discussion? No. And all in favor? All opposed or any opposed?
All of us.
Any opposed? So it's moved, carried. Okay. So that's it, right? We can adjourn. So the meeting is now adjourned.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Sorry I was late, didn't know where I was going.